Hey everyone, it is Mica again. So this week I was going through my Steam library as I'm a little bit bored in my current MMO, which generally takes up the majority of my gaming time. And that also gives me a lot of free time to catch up on games that I've been putting off. That's a lot of games. So as I was going through and downloading various titles, one game jumped out at me. Shadowgate. I was obsessed with this game as a kid, like obsessed. I found the NES version at a garage sale, I think, and I ended up playing it over and over and over again. Then a few years ago, I heard the original creators, Dave March and Carl Roloffs, were developing a remake. I was super excited and I bought it immediately, but as is usually the case, it got lost in the vortex of unplayed games sitting in my Steam library. So if you don't know what Shadowgate was, or is, it's a point-and-click adventure game where you have to make your way through Castle, you guessed it, Shadowgate, to defeat an evil wizard by solving a series of puzzles and avoiding traps. There's no battle, there's no leveling or hit points or anything that's so common in games, but one false move and you're toast. Sometimes literally. The original game, at least for me on the NES, had very basic graphics. I mean, even for the NES, these graphics were basic. It had no setup. There was a story, but it was really super basic, and honestly, it was not even really there. And you needed to play with a pen and paper. I remember making maps and jotting down notes about things I saw and found in different rooms. There was a lot to it, and you had to make a few trips back and forth throughout the castle. This new version is the same game, but with much more added and a lot revised. So first things first, I want to talk about these visuals. I'm a huge fan of this art style. We've seen something similar before in a few other games, but never on this scale. I used to know the name of the style, but it's eluded me, so if anybody knows, please let me know below. Every single room, no matter how basic, is amazing to look at. They didn't go for 3D or hyperrealism or over-the-top cartoony. These are literally just pieces of art you could hang on your wall. When it comes to the music, they just updated the already existing music and did a wonderful job with it. But they also added sound effects like rain and fire, wind and water, the growling of dragons and such. Between the visuals and the sounds, they set a mood that encourages you to immerse yourself in your surroundings. That being said, much like the original music, it can get a little repetitive, and if I'm going to be completely honest, after a few hours, I just muted it and turned on Spotify. But to be completely fair, I do that with almost every game I don't need to actually listen to for dialogue or some kind of sound cues. When it comes to gameplay, Shadowgate is the very definition of no handholding, and that is an understatement. There are very few on-screen indicators that something can be interacted with, so you spend a lot of time just randomly clicking on things. The commands are also really basic, with things like use, look, take, open, close, hit, go. It really just goes back to those old school basics. You're going to find a ton of items that may or may not do something. You can look at things and sometimes there will be clues, and the skull at the top of the screen can be clicked for clues about a room, but they're mostly just vague and not really any help. Usually, you can just use logic to figure things out, even if it sometimes takes a ridiculous number of steps once you do. Like, hey, there's a brazier that you can't touch because it's lit, but the room down the corridor is filled with water and you found an empty vial in it. So if you even remember that, you can go back to that room, fill the vial with water, and douse the fire. And sometimes you'll find random scrolls or books that will give you hints, but in general, when you find them, the tip will be something that you either missed and have to go back for, or something that is still hours away. So I always recommend, don't just read them there, take them with you so you can refer to them later. For these reasons, the gameplay can be incredibly frustrating sometimes, and I found myself both in the old and the new Shadowgate taking breaks and just walking away because I was at the end of my rope, only to come back a few hours later and have everything just click. Frustration is really your main enemy in this game. And as a side note, there's a finite amount of time you have to complete the game, so you can't spend a lot of time on each and every puzzle. This is due to the fact that your character is carrying a torch, and that torch will burn down, and when it goes down, you will die. You will find new torches throughout the map, but there's a limited number, and once they're gone, and if you run out of torches, you're SOL and you need to start over. I know all this may make you not want to play it, but honestly, it's what makes it enjoyable. You need to think and use your brain, but in a fun way. And when you solve some of these puzzles, you have just such a feeling of achievement. You get that dopamine rush. It's that feeling you get when you earn something exciting that you had to work for. And in a sea of games that are overflowing with instant and shallow gratification, it's almost like it's even that much more wonderful. I personally hate all the instant gratification in games. I like the feeling I get from working for something as long as it's done well, and this is. The story itself is there, and it's definitely much larger than the original, but it's really not too compelling. It adds flavor more than anything. There's an opening cutscene and a few scattered throughout the game, but they're all really super short. I played this game over a weekend, but I really binged on it. It's not a super long game, but it can sometimes take time due to how complicated the puzzles can be. So if you're looking for something that's visually beautiful and is going to challenge you in a fun and creative way, definitely check this game out. Just remember to take breaks. Breaks are key because, like I said, you get frustrated with some puzzles and that can just make everything even more difficult. It's available on PC and was just released on the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, and the Nintendo Switch. So check it out, especially if you're a fan of the old version. It's quite a trip. But that's all I have for this week. This week was super fun for me because I got to play Shadowgate and go back to my childhood, and all that nostalgia. Oh, good times. But be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, as I release new videos at least once a week. And my Twitter and Instagram are linked below in case you want to follow me there and just see what else I'm doing. And as per the usual, it has been a hoot. Until next time, have fun.